The main evening news now on BBC One with Peter Sissons.
The secrets of the Hutu militias have been exposed by documents found in the refugee camps they terrorized. Among the debris of war, the fleeing Hutus left evidence that they planned to re-invade Rwanda, the scene of their previous atrocities. The Shadow Chancellor says Labour too would hold a referendum on a single currency. The Tories call it a smokescreen for joining a federal Europe. And calamity strikes Russia's mission to Mars. It could soon be plummeting back to Earth. Good evening. Hutu militias, whose grip on the refugee camps in eastern Zaire has just been broken, have left behind thousands of documents which give the clearest picture yet of how they were organised and what they planned. Papers found by British reporters in a deserted camp appear to suggest that a British company was selling them arms. Documents also indicate that the militias planned to re-invade Rwanda, the scene of their atrocities 2 years ago. Meantime, the stream of refugees from Zaire to Rwanda goes on. Relief workers say the camps near Goma are almost empty, but they expect the exodus to end soon. Ben Brown reports from eastern Zaire. You may find some of the pictures disturbing.
Among the scattered debris of this refugee camp, evidence has been discovered today of how the Hutu extremists who lived here were being supplied with weapons by a British company in December 1994, despite the genocide they had just carried out and despite an arms embargo. This is where the Hutus fought their last stand a few days ago against the Zairian Tutsi rebels. Those who were not killed here fled in panic, leaving behind not only uniforms and helmets, guns and grenades, but also thousands of highly classified documents, including bank statements that showed how the British arms firm was shipping Kalashnikov assault rifles and other weapons to the Hutus via Israel and Albania. The papers found here also show the exiled Hutus were plotting to re-invade Rwanda and that they had a network of spies. The ammunition crates and top-secret records here showed that this was not only a refugee camp, but also a military base, where troops from the former Rwandan government army and Hutu extremists, the perpetrators of the 1994 genocide, were fed, clothed and watered by the international community. Meanwhile, the river of refugees has slowed down to more of a trickle today, but aid workers say most of the 750,000 Hutus who were here are returning to Rwanda. Only about 150,000 have fled in the other direction, deeper into Zaire. Some people, though, cannot go anywhere. The weakest and the sickest, the youngest and the oldest have been left behind. Relief workers have been searching for them today before they die. They've also been picking up children lost or abandoned by their families in the chaotic rush of the exodus. This 6-month-old baby was found beside her mother, who had just died of cholera. Both of them victims of Rwanda's apparently endless agony. Ben Brown, BBC News, on the Rwanda-Zaire border.
Here, the Shadow Chancellor Gordon Brown has been defending his party's new position on Europe, after announcing that a Labour government would hold a referendum before taking Britain into a European single currency. But the Conservatives have attacked the announcement, saying it's an attempt to hide the fact that Labour wants to take Britain into a federal Europe.
It's now clear that when Tony Blair was in Paris last week, he was choosing to hold back from his French hosts the key policy change Labour have just announced. Its chief salesman is the Shadow Chancellor. He believes the next election can't be regarded as a test of opinion on the single currency.
We just don't know. We don't know who's going to join. We don't know if it's going to go ahead in the timescale that's been decided. And that's why I think it's fair to say we will not know all the details before the general election.
Mr. Brown will be hoping to tempt some Tory sceptics out of the shadows to condemn the government's policy for being now exactly the same as Labour's. This one did not need much tempting.
I think we're being outflanked and penned in at the same time. It's essential that we regain the initiative from Labour. We have got to say no to the single currency, take it to the other partners in Europe at the Dublin summit and make quite clear that we're not going to put up with this.
But a change in policy is out of the question, according to the Tory chairman, who's well read on the problems Europe has caused his party, and today wanted his words to focus outwards at Labour.
The Labour Party is committed to a federal Europe. This announcement is just a smokescreen to divert people's attention from the fact that they plan a massive transfer of power from London to Brussels.
To those following all this in Brussels, the Liberal Democrats were trumpeting their pro-European credentials and stressing, yes, they do want a referendum, but they've said they actually want the single currency too, and Labour haven't.
A referendum is no substitute for a clear policy. The difficulty about Labour's position is it's still not clear whether Labour supports Britain's entry into a single European currency.
Before the 1992 election, Europe seemed almost to vanish off the political agenda. The parties chose not to disagree, and the issue all but disappeared. They are attacking each other on the single currency now, but from the same policy position, almost as if the closer they get, the louder they have to shout. Jeremy Vine, BBC News, Westminster.
The MP Stephen Norris is to become Director General of the Road Haulage Association, just 4 months after his resignation as a Transport Minister. Labour described his decision to take the post, which is reported to carry a salary of £150,000, as disgraceful, coming so soon after Mr Norris left the government. The MP has already said he plans to stand down at the next election. Britain has won a contract to supply the Gulf state of Qatar with defence equipment worth £500 million. The order includes Hawk jets made by British Aerospace, Piranha armoured vehicles built by GKN at Telford, and Starburst missiles from Shorts of Belfast. The agreement, which has been under negotiation for several years, will help secure thousands of jobs in the defence industry. Romanians are voting today in the second round of an election that could end President Ion Iliescu's 7 years in power. The president, who was a senior official under the Ceausescu regime, has led Romania since the 1989 revolution. In the first round, he had only a slight lead over his liberal challenger.
In this cold grey city, the hopes and excitement of the revolution are gone. Some of the marks of that violent time remain. So does the man who seized power then and is trying to hold on to it now. Ion Iliescu, president for 7 years, is an old communist who now defines himself as a democratic socialist. With all the apparatus of his party behind him, he campaigns on a slogan of strength with equilibrium, but his hold on power is precarious. For his challenger, Emil Constantinescu, just arriving to vote today was like a victory rally. He leads the present party and now a whole coalition of opposition parties, including Iliescu's former Prime Minister, Petre Roman. Salvation, he says, lies with the will of the majority. The opposition is convinced that victory is finally within reach.
This time, I believe that the people are aware of what's going on in the country. They awaken to the situation, and I think that they will vote us in.
The opposition is also playing the religious card, identifying with the country's religious feeling and talking of family values. That's new politics in Romania. Also new, the statue to Corneliu Coposu, former leader of the Peasants' Party, jailed for 17 years by the tyrant Ceausescu. Now it seems the party's time may have come again. The opposition has a fair chance of victory. This has been a long revolution. Martin Bell, BBC News, Bucharest.
The government's firearms bill will be voted on in the House of Commons tomorrow. A close outcome is expected, with opposition parties pressing the government to go even further and impose a total ban on handguns, and likely to be supported by a handful of Tory rebels. Today, more than 1,000 shooting enthusiasts gathered to voice their opposition to the bill.
You're supposed to be our voice in Parliament.
The pro-shooting lobby stayed quiet immediately after the Dunblane tragedy. Now they say they are being unfairly penalised as politicians vote for a ban that threatens their sport.
The irony is that the results of Dunblane are falling on people who have no responsibility or no guilt for it at all. People like yourselves, decent, law-abiding people.
Guns like this look almost certain to be outlawed. The shooters say they've failed to make their case to the politicians and the public.
The legitimate shooter is being penalised because the politicians have got on the bandwagon and they can see it as a campaigning issue, and it's very emotive.
There's considerable anger and resentment amongst shooters here at what they see as the imminent demise of their sport. Most now accept that the ban on handguns over .22 caliber is inevitable. They can only keep up the pressure to prevent a wider ban. Dunblaine's Snowdrop campaigners want a total ban. Despite the support of most opposition MPs and a handful of Tories, the government believes it will narrowly defeat this move. But campaigners say tomorrow's vote is not the end of the matter.
I think it will become an election issue simply because all the other political parties in mainland Great Britain support a complete ban on handguns.
In your own time! The issue of gun control is at the heart of the political debate over social standards and law and order. Voting tomorrow will be very close, and the issue may well be revived during the general election campaign. Carol Walker, BBC News.
The Russian spacecraft, which scientists had hoped would gather important new information about Mars, is expected to burn up in the Earth's atmosphere in the next few hours. Booster motors on the rocket misfired soon after it was launched, trapping the probe in orbit around the Earth.
At first, all went well as a Russian Proton rocket lofted the 6.5-ton Mars 96 probe on its way into Earth orbit. The rocket's first 3 stages worked properly, placing the probe into a parking orbit, and scientists toasted a successful start to the mission, unaware of what was about to happen. The rocket's 4th stage, that should have boosted the probe out of Earth orbit and on its way to Mars, malfunctioned.
We've been preparing this launch for 8 years, which has been very difficult considering the economic situation in the country at this time.
British space scientists involved in the project suspect that lack of money was behind today's failure.
I think they have cut out testing. I think that's probably one of the problems. The problem with the space, anything you do in space, is you can't go up and fix it, or it's very hard to go up and fix it.
Mars is becoming an unlucky planet for scientists. 3 of the past 4 space probes launched towards it have failed. It may not be possible to find out what caused Mars 96 to fail. After its loss, one dejected space official at Mission Control was heard to say, "Let's go home. We're not going to Mars today." David Whitehouse, BBC News.
An Australian teenager has become the youngest person to sail round the world non-stop and single-handed. Hundreds of boats turned out to give a hero's welcome to 18-year-old David Dix as he arrived back in Fremantle in Western Australia. Since he set out last February, he's covered more than 30,000 miles in his 10-metre yacht Seaflight. Now tennis, the British #1 Tim Henman has retained the men's singles title in the Guardian Direct National Championships at Telford. He beat the British #2 Greg Rusedski 6-7, 7-6, 6-4. The game went to tie-breaks in the first 2 sets, and Rusedski had to have treatment on a back injury halfway through the match. It's the 3rd time Henman has beaten Rusedski in 3 meetings. And the main news tonight. Hutu militias fleeing from eastern Zaire have left behind evidence that they plan to re-invade Rwanda. They also left papers which suggest that a British company was selling them arms. That's all from the BBC Newsroom tonight. Good night.
Ten years after BSE first hit the headlines, Horizon presents the first of a 2-part investigation on BBC Two now, asking why it took so long for science to come up with the truth.
A very good evening to you. It is going to be a cold week to come, widespread frost around. In fact, we're going to have a fairly widespread frost tonight, down as low as -8 in the Glens of Scotland. That's 18 degrees Fahrenheit. But no frost over East Anglia, down across into the southeast tonight. Cloud and outbreaks of rain still around, and I think they'll still be there through tomorrow morning. The rain getting very patchy. But most places tomorrow, not a bad day, dry with some sunshine. There will be showers all the time around these coasts and up in the north in particular, and some freezing patches of fog over northern parts of England, central and southern Scotland in the morning. So this means icy patches around, more particularly from northern England northwards and across in towards Northern Ireland. They'll be clearing away through the morning then, and as I say, most inland parts dry with some sunshine, brightening up in that southeastern part, but always the showers in the far north, wintry showers over the hills there. So not a very warm day, 4 or 5 degrees at the best in most places. That's the forecast. Bye for now.
Imagine being the biggest bankrupt in this country.
The fear is being convicted and going to prison.
Imagine being accused of fraud.
I couldn't walk in the street in London without someone saying crook.
Imagine the pressures of building a case over 5 years.
And for Kevin, it's got to be like being on death row.
I don't like talking about it in front of the others, because then they get upset.
For Kevin Maxwell, it was a reality.
I mean, there are times when you actually feel the physical weight of the state.
A fly-on-the-wall account. The trial of Kevin Maxwell, Tuesday at 10:25 on BBC One.
Hi, I'm Michael Parkinson, asking you to support children in need. Your money goes a long way in helping change children's lives. Children in Need Day is November the 22nd, so start your fundraising straight away.
Stephen Fry and Frankie Dettori are the guests, having a chat with Clive Anderson in 55 minutes. Back to our new drama, first on BBC One, and it's time for The Truth in part 2 of The Tenant of Wildfell Hall.